Okay. Camp's about probably half over, pretty close to being half over. Just had our 12th practice. The morning practice was out there, non-padded. Big week. Obviously, got to keep moving forward. Got a lot of improvement needs to be made on all three sides of the ball. Happy with where we're at this point, but you know, halfway into camp, that just means that we got a long ways to go. So we will have 6 afternoon practices that will be regular afternoon practices. As I mentioned last time we were together, that we were starting to get into situational work and have had 2 red zone, score zone days, and you know, which, you know, third downs are kind of the same deal as red zone and score zone. So started to introduce a lot of the situational stuff. Started to introduce a lot of the tempo stuff. Obviously, in the Big 12, we're going to have to not only be able to play fast, which is what we like to do offensively, but we have to be able to defend that as well. So in addition to the situational stuff, we started doing a lot of tempoing and defending tempoing, which puts people in situations that they have to think quick and they got to be able to react. And we have a long ways to go to be functional offensively, defensively when it comes to the tempo. So that's kind of where we're at. You know, still a lot of position battles that are ongoing, that will be ongoing all through this week. Not making any decisions on any of the starters or any of that at this point. We want to, you know, anytime you have 6 more practices in a whole week of camp, things can change pretty drastically. Guys have good days, guys have bad days. You know, you're looking for guys that consistently can put a couple of good days together, which we're starting to figure that out, who those guys are. And if the guys have a bad day, then they need to regroup pretty quickly if they want to be in the hunt for a starting job or a backup role. So that's where we're at. Happy with where we're at. So open it up to some questions.
David, besides quarterback, what other just positions do you think are the biggest questions in your mind in terms of battles?
Corner. You know, as we've talked a lot about corners, you know, corner play. You know, Travis Bell's transitioned, I think, very well. Icky Banks is playing probably as good as anybody. You know, Darryl Worley's a guy that's got a tremendous amount of upside. You know, Avery Williams is coming off of a year's worth of a neck injury, so he's getting better every day. Brandon Napoleon's maturing. You know, Broderick Jenkins is kind of the veteran of the group, whether he can hold the younger guys off or not. So I think we got 6 quality guys there that need to continue to get better. You know, playing in the Big 12, the receivers are good. Lost a lot of good ones last year, and everybody's like, the Big 12 is minus a lot of star power. Well, that's not true. Nobody knows who they are yet. The Big 12 is going to have plenty of receivers that can play, and that's a position that's challenging. You know, so we got to get guys that are confident and obviously better than what we were playing with last year. Safeties, I think we're fine. You know, everything else is, you know, you can say, well, receivers, we got a lot of bodies there, but it's the same thing at receiver as it is at corner. You know, you got to find out who the guys are that are ready to take the next step. Don't know who that is yet.
How about your offensive line? And how are they shaping up? And is anybody asserting themselves at center?
Yeah, Tyler Orlowski's really doing well. He's got the upper hand right now. You know, we're playing about 10 bodies on the O-line. You know, so you know, would be 11 if we had Pankey, but he's a ways away. I'd say Orlowski's kind of got the upper hand at center right now. You know, it's between him and you know, Matteo is the 2 that are taking the majority of the reps. And you're talking about 2 redshirt freshmen there, so both of them have a lot of growing to do. Tyler's probably a little bit ahead right now physically. Well, we moved him to guard. It's tough to come in at center and without a spring practice, without a year under your belt. It's tough to come in at center because physically the game's different here than what he's used to, and then you add the added pressure of making the calls, the added pressure of snapping, and then you know, as well as just the physical battle that you got to play each and every snap. I mean, it's hard. So he's got a redshirt year. We may use it. Don't know yet, but we'll figure that out here down the road. But we moved him to guard just because we needed another guard body on the second team. And physically, he's doing some good things. So he's making progress, but felt like he would make more progress for us right now at guard rather than center.
You said something earlier. You said the Big 12 isn't defined as star power. You just don't know the guy's name. Do you kind of feel the same way about your team?
Yeah, absolutely I do. How are we going to score a point? I've been talking to our guys all the time. How are we going to score a point without three of the best players that ever played the game here? And they were. I mean, obviously, Stedman and Tavon, between the two of them scoring whatever 40-some touchdowns last year was obviously pretty good. That doesn't mean that we don't have guys on our roster that can score touchdowns. So Big 12 lost a lot of receivers in the NFL last year. So there's some guys probably waiting in the wings or maturing or developing that we just don't know who they are yet. And yeah, I'll say that about our guys too. I think we got some guys that are going to develop into pretty good players.
Thoughts on the decision making for your quarterbacks? Where are they at right now?
I would say Paul makes the best decisions and the worst decisions. He's got the most reps. He's taken the most reps. He's pretty comfortable. He'll still do some bonehead stuff, as they all do. I mean, anytime you got inexperienced guys that don't have a lot of starts under their belt, and they're going to make some good decisions and some bad decisions. Ford continues to get better. Had his best day on Saturday that he's had since he's been here. We took, I think, about 45 live reps from the red zone in, moved the ball, and he had his best day since he's been here. Made some really good decisions, some good throws, in the right situations to get the ball in the end zone. Clint's got presence to him. Every rep he takes, he gets better. So, does some good things. They all make good decisions at times, but because of inexperience, makes poor decisions that get them in trouble. The guy that probably reduces the poor decisions will be the guy that wins the job, because I think they're all capable of being pretty good.
Say Paul makes the best decisions and the worst decisions, which kind of leads you to believe that maybe he's kind of a risk taker. Is there a fine line there between trying to eliminate those mistakes and curbing his aggressiveness?
There's a fine line, because the Texas gunslinger mentality. I mean, you don't throw for 4,500 yards in a senior season without not being able to take some risks. So, but you don't want to handcuff them either, because if you handcuff them and not give them the ability to be able to make decisions and pull the trigger, then they're going to play. We don't want to get them to the point where they're afraid to make a mistake. That's not what we do offensively. So we point out the bad decisions and say you should have done this instead, because obviously if you make some risks or make some decisions and they result in turnovers, then you're not going to win football games. And that's the start. That's the start. I mean, the quarterback that doesn't make the bad decisions and turn the ball over is going to be the guy that has a chance to be the guy. I think that's probably the same each and everywhere. That I don't care what offense you run, I don't care where you're at. The quarterback that takes care of the ball and puts the guys in position to be successful, guys that are going to be good quarterbacks.
Yeah, along those lines, Ford hasn't played, and I guess for lack of a better phrase, he doesn't know any better, so he's going to let it loose because he hasn't had the negative side of some things. And that'd be a good thing for him in this, because rather than him thinking or hesitating, he'll let it go, and maybe it works, and maybe he learns something, he only makes a mistake once.
Well, you can figure that out in practice, I think. I mean, just because he hasn't played in games yet, I think Paul's limited experience that he has in games. Clint's played just a handful of games, so he's got limited experience in games, especially in our offense. So I view them all the same. I don't give any of them the upper hand to win the job. based on whether they've played in a couple of games or whether they haven't played in a couple of games. I've said since day one that the guy that produces and plays the best in the practices and the situations that we put him in is going to be the guy that we go with come game one. So I don't take anything in account for what's actually happened on games for the last couple of years. It's all based on what they do in these situations that we put them in.
How much is installing or introducing tempo? How much does that sort of things out? If you have a guy who physically can make all the throws and decisions, but he's not as good as tempo, would you favor somebody who maybe isn't as good with throws and decisions, but has a handle on the tempo?
It will play. It will play. It will play some. You know, in making the decisions. I mean, when you go fast, if you're able to handle it without, you know, forgetting things or, you know, making poor decisions, yes, that does bring some things to light. And what can continue to put him in those situations here this week.
Dan, you talked about the Texas gunslinger attitude or whatever. You spread the field, you throw the ball a lot. Do you consider yourself a conservative coach, though, rather than a gunslinger type coach? Because of the
Compared to who?
compared to someone maybe that can't give you a name, but
Right.
that throws the ball down the field maybe more, or maybe does revert. Yeah, I mean, you don't taking chances, taking those kind of chances. Do you do that much, or do you?
Yeah, taking a few chances. You know, I mean, we're you know, everybody. I get asked all the time what kind of offense you run. I don't really know. Really, I mean, is it the air raid? Is it the spread? Is it, you know, you running the ball more? I don't know. Whatever works. You know, if it works, do it again. So, you know, we're continuing to evaluate our personnel. We did move Garrett Hope to fullback. You know, Eli Willman's doing really good. Adjusted to the game pretty good, but he's much like Cody, where you know, you tell him to go block back on the defensive end, he'll do it 48 times in a row for you, crack his head open if you let him. So we moved Garrett there to be able to alleviate some of that. So we want to be physical. We want to run the ball. We want to be able to spread it out with 4 and 5 receivers and throw the ball. You know, how much we do of each and every one of them kind of depends on what kind of success that we're having. So our offense can look like an old school pro style offense at times, but it can also look like a air raid, spread it out, play with tempo sort of thing. So I think you got to figure out what you're good at and just you know, kind of start focusing on that. And I haven't figured that out yet.
Nate, you mentioned Garrett Hope. Would you move anybody else around?
No, other than maybe like inside backer to outside backer or inside receiver to outside receiver. Nothing drastic from offense to defense or vice versa.
Nate, have you given much thought as to what the 8th official will do in regard to how you want to go tempo-wise? Because it would seem as though that's going to allow you to go quicker.
It will. It will. When we experimented with it in I don't remember if it was a spring game or if it may have been the spring game or one of the scrimmages prior to the spring game. They brought their crew. The Big 12 brought a crew, and we had the 8th official out there. And I was out there, if you remember, too. I was out right behind the quarterback calling sacks. And so I was kind of watching how it unplayed, you know, how it was. And the back judge, or who's the guy behind the quarterback? Is he the back judge? I always get those guys mixed up. But the referee? Okay, yeah, you guys know more about I ignore these guys. But the guy that's sitting behind the quarterback, the guy that usually spotted the ball, I mean, I felt so bad for that guy at times over the last couple of years because, you know, he'd have to hold it or he was getting out of there and we're snapping it, and then he can't sit there and focus on what's going on, you know. So watching it in the spring, and we tempoed a good bit that specific day, whether it was the spring game or the previous one. He was just back, and I was talking to him the whole time. He's like, man, this is going to be great because he can help dictate when there's subs, when there's not subs, if the guy needs to get out of there, focus more on false starts, focus more on misalignments, have his wits about him as far as protecting the quarterback or holding calls. I think it's just going to be more efficient. From a tempo aspect, is it going to allow us to play faster? I felt like you could play pretty fast regardless if there was 7 out there or 8 out there, but I think they're going to make better decisions. It'll help them make better decisions. Fully support it.
How's that gonna work for non-conference games?
Again, I don't think it will affect anything that we do, trying to snap the ball, I mean, we're still going to play the same game that we always play, but when we're in conference, I think we're going to see that they're going to make better decisions because they're going to have their wits about them, as opposed to being rushed and hurrying up and getting out of the huddle or whatever it is.
So you think it's going to be more of a matter of efficiency,
Yes.
officiating, rather than increasing the tempo? Because
Correct.
they're snapping some plays off within 9 seconds at certain places.
Yeah, I think you can do that regardless. I mean, the Big 12 allows you to do it. The SEC probably is going to be a little bit slower getting out from over the ball. I think they can see pretty quick. I mean, I don't ever try to sub and go fast. I don't try to break that rule. And if we want a tempo, then we're going to keep the people in the game. As soon as the snap's over, they're going to know that they're going to hurry up and line up, and we're going to snap the ball as soon as we can, which will be, somewhere between 10 and 15 seconds. That to me is easy, and I don't think it matters if there's 7 or 8 guys out there. But I do think that we're going to get better play. It's a great song, by the way. When they play everything in the weight room, it just floods in here, and you can listen and enjoy it. I don't even know why they have these speakers in the corner over here. Just tell the weight room to play the music. We showed this video to our team this morning, too. It's a great video. Everybody seen it? Boys of Fall? Come on, you haven't seen that? I tell you, the very last picture is Bear Bryant. He says his team, he goes out there, he puts his hat on, he looks at the chalkboard, final little thoughts before he goes out onto the field. And so I asked our team, I said, how many of you guys know who this last guy was? And about 10 to 15% of our team raised their hand. I go, you got to be kidding me. 85% of our team didn't know who Bear Bryant was. Just got to educate them.
What do you think Bear Bryant would think of the football that you play? The successor doesn't like it very much. But
Yeah, it'd probably blow his mind, probably. It's quite a bit different.